Today we're talking bourbons under $40. Well, kind of. Let's do this. Today we're going to take a look at bourbons that are under $40-ish. So a couple little things. So I'm trying to make these bourbons fairly available for the most part. It's going to be under 40, but more than 30. So I want to try to keep it within that $10 range. And I'm also going to put a plus minus of $5 one way or another. So I know we can't exactly hit on pricing being the same everywhere within the United States. So I want to have a little bit of a kind of plus minus based on, again, the availability in each of your markets. So why don't we go ahead and kind of get into today's video. And again, this is going to highlight bourbons that are under or right around that $40 price point. So, all right, first up, rare breed. Really hard to beat for under $40. Again, this is a bourbon in my area that I can always get at right around that $40 price point. I know that this is one that can kind of creep up there for a lot of people, but again, I can find it for right around that $40 price point, and it's a great barrel proof wild turkey product. The rare breed for me is probably one of my kind of favorite bourbons to go to quite a bit. This just happens to be a little bit of an older release. They do vary in proofs as they release different batches. But again, if you can find this at or around $40 price point, give or take $5, it's a fantastic value. So there you have it, first out of the gate, rare breed. You've got the Knob Creek 120 proof. Great bourbon. Really, in terms of today's day and age, as far as value goes, it's very difficult to beat this bourbon. You know, you've got something that's generally going to be at least 9 years old, 120 proof, so great proof if you're looking for something that's got, you know, a little bit of that higher proof. You know, classic kind of bourbon profile. You know, Beam, Knob Creek always has a little bit more of that kind of slight nuttier type of profile. So if you're familiar with what that is and you appreciate it, again, great bourbon. Again, these are going to be all bourbons that either if you're getting into bourbon and or looking for a gift for somebody who's into bourbon, these will all be great selections. So there you have it, the Knob Creek 9-year 120 proof, great everyday kind of bourbon. All right, disregard the cast strength portion. So the Maker's 46 is a great wheated bourbon. Maker's Mark, tried and true. Again, it's a great everyday sipping kind of bourbon. So that line, when they introduced it going back a few years ago, that Maker's 46, they kind of nailed it with that release. And it's been something that's grown and become kind of a favorite of an awful lot of people. And a lot of times this wins kind of hands down in a lot of kind of flights that people end up doing. So the 46 offers a very interesting, flavorful profile. Sweet, creamy, honey notes, still nice spice on that. But again, a great everyday sipping bourbon. Again, disregard the cast strength portion. We're just focusing on the Maker's 46. Regular release, readily available at or right around that $40 price point. So with Michter's, again, it's a little bit of a lower proof bourbon. However, it just always seems to do really well either in blinds. I'm a huge fan of this bourbon in particular. Does really well. I enjoy its profile that it has on it. Again, this might creep just slightly above that $40 price point. I can get these here most of the time for right around $42 or $43. So it's a great price, great bourbon, a little bit lower proof, but I think it's a surprising bourbon. So again, if you're considering any of these, if you're looking for simply proof, it's hard to get away from, you know, some of the rare breed or the Knob Creek 120. Those are great from those standpoint. If you're looking for, again, something that's just a very versatile, easy sipping bourbon, really hard to get away from the Michter's small batch bourbon. Great bourbon. Generally speaking, it's fairly available for most people. But again, right around that $40 price point. Again, here's where the plus minus of $5 comes into play, that will probably apply to the Michter's US1 small batch bourbon. For me, another Maker's product. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Makers, love what it is that they have to offer. This is their Maker's cask strength. So for me, in my area, this is about $36, give or take. Great bourbon. I think this is where they start with everything, whether they're gonna proof down to their regular Maker's lineup or kind of modify some of their different LEs, or the 46, things along those lines. But this is really where it starts. So if you're looking for the true flagship for what it is that Makers has to offer, and at $40, you're getting a barrel strength, cask strength bourbon, great bourbon. It's really, really easy sipping, dangerously easy to sip on, but there you have it. That's the Maker's cask strength for right around $36. The Four Roses single barrel. I'm a huge Four Roses fan. Love what this has to offer. Again, at right around $36, $37 is generally where you can pick this one up. Great bourbon. One that I always try to have on hand. If you can find, again, it's not gonna be at or under 40 bucks, but if you can find their single barrel, barrel proof releases, that's always an absolutely fantastic pour. But for today's video, the Four Roses single barrel, great everyday bourbon and generally readily available. Here's a sneaky little bourbon right here. So the Remus from MGP. This is a little lower proof, I believe. What is this, 94 proof? It's always one that seems to do well. People really enjoy it, and it's at right around that $36, $37 price point. So I wanted to get this one in there. I know Remus may not be totally readily available for most people, but again, this is gonna be, at or below that $40 price point. So if you can find it in your area, do not hesitate to pick it up. I know a lot of times people don't either necessarily recognize the brand or the label and don't know what it is, but if you kind of put a little bit of faith in me and give the Remus small batch a try, I think it's something that you'll really enjoy. For me, it's one that I love to kind of go to on a daily basis. So Larceny. So this is one that I found that fluctuates in price fairly significantly. For me, this is a little bit, in that $35 range for the liter bottle. So we get a lot of the liter bottles around here, and at that price point, it's kind of hard to beat. So, I think if you can find the 1 liter of Larceny at right around that $35, $36 price point, I think it's a great everyday sipping wheated bourbon, one that I like to try to have on hand at most times. It's kind of one of those ones that when I offer it up to people, they have a tendency to really enjoy it. So I try to always have a little bit of the Larceny, kind of small batch around, lower proof, right around 92 proof, I believe, on that one. But again, a great bourbon at or under $40. Be the Cooper's Craft 100. Now this may be one that's the most difficult to find on here. I know their distribution is not the greatest necessarily with that, but if you're able to find the Cooper's Craft or find it online, it's a great bourbon. Really nice, rich, complex flavors, fruitiness, heavy dark fruits, more of those brown sugars, great caramels and vanillas. An absolutely fantastic bourbon for under $40 or right around that $40 price point. It's one that, for me, if I was gonna almost recommend, kind of out of the entire group as a daily sipping bourbon, it may be the Cooper's Craft 100. So there you have it. I hope this helps if you were looking for a bourbon for either yourself as a gift and you're trying to stay within that $40 price point, give or take maybe $5. These would all be great bourbons, I think, that you could offer up to somebody or have around for yourself. But a great place to start for bourbons that are under $40 that offer, I think, a really nice value for what it is that you're getting. So I want to say thank you again for tuning in, and remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers, guys.